in regards to progress of equality for all, and in particular marriage equality in Australia. We now know that all our leaders seem to be still living in the 19th century, but we're not. So my colleagues at AME and Equal Love are still busy as ever fighting for our rights and a more inclusive Australia. Gone are the days of segregation, except for our brothers and sisters of the LGBTI community. There is no such room for such discrimination in this country. Separate but equal does not work, and hate still seems to be a family value for a small minority. But we are making substantial progress on the issue of marriage equality and taking the hate out of the Marriage Act. Even though at times it may seem a slow process, change does not happen overnight. So what are these substantial steps forwards? Well, if you haven't heard, the President of the USA, one of the world's most powerful men, recently stated his support of marriage equality in an election year of all times, and in a country where the support for marriage equality is not as strong as the majority of 64% we see here in Australia. Personally, I see this as a great sign of progress towards greater equality across the globe, and of course a true reflection of the man's integrity and leadership qualities, more importantly. Something lacking in our leaders today, which we've heard on numerous occasions. And in a country, sadly, where we hold a fair go in such high esteem, but we're not seeing it now. Don't get me wrong though, one of the most moving and reassuring things we have seen that reinforces my belief that we are a damn awesome group of people, us Australians, is the supporters of us and the people who have mobilised. The removal of hate from the Marriage Act doesn't directly affect our straight brothers and sisters, but they have in great numbers made submissions to the Senate and the House of Rep inquiries, along with us, at unprecedented levels. They have signed petitions, they have come to our rallies, they have expressed their beliefs to their relevant MPs and so on. This support is of a different level and calibre to that of the US, and yet their leader has shown he can do the right thing by the people of this country when it necessarily isn't a populist issue in that country. We also see David Cameron, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and the leader of the Tory party, and our neighbours in New Zealand have a Conservative leader who also has shown his support for marriage equality, and they already have civil unions. So what the hell is going on? We asked Julia and Tony, please show us some leadership on this issue. Please represent the beliefs of the majority. I grew up in believing that Australia had a great political system where democracy and secularism were defining attributes. These days I often question if this is the truth anymore. So the Australian public have spoken and their voices haven't been heard. So where to from here? Well, it's been the stories of individuals like yourselves that have been the most powerful and what has changed the views of these pollies and that have been sitting on the fence. The only way forward is to still be positive, and if we are angry at the inaction of our leaders, harness that anger and call their officers to make a time to meet and put your case forward. But if we relinquish the fight, the leaders will continue making decisions in their interest and not the interest of the nation. So please continue to approach your federal MPs, along with Tony and Julia. Tell them, we want Australian values of a fair go, equality and reason. We want them to prevail. Tell them your individual stories of homonegativity, homophobia and the dangers of concentrated homophobia directed to the youth and our brothers and sisters in regional areas. Tell them that we are not equal. If we are not equal under the law, it gives the ignorant an excuse to hate. Tell them that your family and friends and colleagues all want to see equality for you. Tell them that hate is not a family value. Tell them that you can't have some equality. You either have it or you don't, and at the moment we don't. Ask them to acknowledge their conscience on this issue. And finally, ask them if they're listening. Tony and Julia, are you listening? Tony and Julia, are you listening?